There is a moment in every life when you decide to rise, to stand taller than your fear, to speak louder than your doubt, to chase the vision that sets your soul on fire. This is that moment. And here, we walk it together with stories that awaken, voices that inspire, and truths that set you free. This is Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where hope has a voice, and that voice is yours. And welcome to the show, everybody. I'm so excited that you're here, and there are children in the background, aren't there?
Oh, yeah, my son. Yes.
We have got a great show for you today. Heidy De La Cruz is with us, and she's a podcast host. She's got a, dare I say it, a 9-to-5 job. She works in the insurance industry and all of that. But I'm very interested in the work that you're doing and the podcasts that you put together. You also help other people start podcasts and to do that sort of thing. So,
yeah.
And we need to talk about all of that. But first of all, welcome to the show. How are you?
Kevin, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and talk all the things. And yeah, just thank you. I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Good. We were so excited to see you and to have you back, and I had to cancel a show because of the circumstances beyond my control.
Yeah.
And so I'm fine. I'm glad you rebooked, and I'm glad that you're here because you can add a lot of insight for us. First of all, I got to ask you, how did you decide to get into podcasting from what you were doing?
Yeah, so I was a big fan of podcasts before I started, like years. I was listening to podcasts for years, but I realized that I was listening to very storytelling podcasts, right? So it's people telling their stories and things like that. I just love learning from people's stories. And so it was in 2019 that I always say God put it in my heart to start a podcast. It's like, I want to interview everyday people and just share the good things that God is doing in their lives, because people don't realize what impact they have with the people around them. And so I wanted to give them a chance to like highlight their story and things like that. But it wasn't until 2022 that I was able to launch it. And actually I was on maternity leave. So that kid that you heard, he was 3 months old. When I
started.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's a good time. So he was 3 months old. It was towards the end of my maternity leave. And I'm like, well, I have more time now. I still want to launch this podcast. And so I sat down and Googled everything, like how to start a podcast, and got everything that I needed. And then finally, when it came time to like, okay, what is this podcast going to be about? I actually found an article on Medium, and it was an immigrant from Kenya and her story about each cultural shock that she experienced here in the United States and how it really diminished her confidence. And it was a really deep article for me. And I remember just going to my husband and was like, when you hear about immigration, you don't hear people's stories, or you don't hear this part of the immigration experience or the immigrant experience. And so I asked him, like, hey, you were 9 years old when you came, like you were young. Do you remember how you felt when you first got here? And, him and his family immigrated from the Dominican Republic to New York. So like, tropical island to like the concrete jungle. And he was like, yeah, I remember very vividly how I felt. So as he's telling me his story in more details, I'm like, okay, this is what the podcast is going to be about. I am going to share immigrant stories, and we're going to talk about cultural shocks. We're going to talk about life back home. How was it different? How did they navigate? I've always been curious about like if they had any expectations of the US versus when they first got here. Because, our media influences a lot of, around the world, a lot of cultures and things. And so we talk about that. And then we also talk about the businesses that they start, because a lot of immigrants, are business owners and go ahead and start their own businesses. And then the last question that I ask them is, what does the American dream mean to them? Because, there's various different reasons why people come. And at the end of the day, they're looking for an American dream.
Well, first of all, I've got to tell you this. Cesar Reynosa.
That is my dad. Hi, Papi.
Hi, Papi. How you doing?
He's actually one of the reasons, too, why I started this podcast, just like listening to his story, my stepmom's story. And yeah, if it wasn't for my dad coming, honestly, him and my mom, I wouldn't be here right now.
Well, where is Cesar from?
My dad is from the Dominican Republic as well. He came in the 90s.
Oh, wow. And
Yeah.
that was a few years ago, and I'll
Oh
bet
yeah.
you. Well, I remember, sadly, kid, I remember the 90s and
Awesome.
and stuff. And I remember the 80s. And there was a
Mhm.
point in time when Ronald Reagan was president, and that was the
Oh.
last time we had meaningful immigration reform.
Mm.
And I had people working for me. That was where the I-9 forms came from, because before that
Okay.
they didn't have any of that. And so but that launched a whole industry of fake IDs and stuff like that. Because if you
Oh.
presented a fake ID, like a fake social security card and stuff, we
Mhm.
would accept it, and these people would work for us. And I I
Oh.
I get so upset with people who say that that immigration and immigrants should not be here, because I tell you what, everyone that I've ever met are the hardest working, honest, above board people that I've ever worked with.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and they show, and in a little bit I've got a story about one of the guys that I worked with, and I just loved what he did and so forth. But first,
Yes.
we've got to talk. So you started the podcast,
Yes.
and you started talking about immigration. Now you started in 22,
Yes.
and then the election of 24 came along,
Yes.
and which kind of sort of changed everything, didn't it?
Oh yeah, it did. It definitely did. I had my emotion and things like that, and feeling like really what am I doing? Should I keep doing this and things like that, and having that talk. But I had a lot of very supportive friends really reach out to me and be like, no, we really need these stories now more than ever. And I had, a friend really pray over me, pray over the work and stuff that I'm doing. And also just really talking to God. Everything that I do is because of my faith, right? And so God reminded me that the Bible talks over and over again about his heart for the vulnerable. And the vulnerable are the widows, the orphans, the poor, and the foreigners. And there's, endless of Bible verses talking about how we should treat the foreigners and things like that. And so I'm like, no, God put this podcast for in my heart for a reason. And since 2022, it's won 2 awards already. It's listened to in over 90 countries. Then the number one country, obviously, being the United States. The number two country was Germany for the longest time, and then now it's the UK. So it's just crazy to see like these stats of like people from all over the world listening and learning about the American dream, learning about the immigration experience here in the United States. And I've also interviewed people that have not immigrated to the United States per se. So I've interviewed people who have immigrated to Canada, and I've interviewed one person who actually immigrated to the UK. And the reason why I expanded it a little bit to them is because there's still this immigration process that people go through, and these emotional things that people like cultural shocks, right? Regardless of where you move, you're still going to experience cultural shocks because it's just different from your country. So it's been a really interesting ride, and also the podcast has also expanded my worldview on a lot of things, and it's brought me the opportunity also to go to the Mexican border earlier this year. So I ended up going to Mexico with the organization We Choose Welcome and Abara. And that was actually a really interesting experience because we went on the last week of January, which was right the week after the new administration was sworn in. So we were experiencing like all those changes in like real time. And it was so crazy to experience. That's the only word that I can say that it was.
And by the way, I think this is somebody else that you know. They have the same
Oh,
last name.
oh, my stepmom. Hi.
So proud. Thanks, Kevin, for having Heidi. And it is ultimately my pleasure, because
Yes.
you are an extraordinary human being,
Oh,
and
thank you.
it's just all the work that you're doing for people to, because podcasts by their very nature are designed to educate people.
Yes.
And there are so many people who think of immigrants as the other, and
Mhm.
we don't know them, and they have a
Yes.
different culture, and by gum, they don't speak English like I do, and which is what this country was founded on.
Yeah,
Was
I think a lot of people forget that the most of the West was Mexico until the war, until the Mexican Spanish War, and then that's how we got Texas and California and Nevada and all those states. Like all of that was Mexico way back then.
Yeah, but it was like in 1836
Yeah. Yep.
is when they had the Mexican War,
Hmm.
and then of course Texas became their own country,
Yeah.
and for a period of time until after the Alamo and stuff, and then they eventually joined the Union. So which
Yeah.
made up our 50 states. But we are a multicultural group of people, and we should. My opinion, and I'd love to know what you think. I think that we should honor the diversity that we have
Oh,
with
yes.
everybody.
You know what was so beautiful last year seeing the Olympics was like you see all these people from all these different countries. And obviously, like everyone from a particular country will look the same. But when you would see like the United States, it was so diverse and it was so beautiful to see. I mean, I loved it. I love seeing, all the diversity within the US team. And I absolutely love that.
It is part of our culture. It is part of who we are. And it's so important. So thank you, first of all, for doing the podcast and doing the work that you're doing, because there is a lot, and I say a lot, I mean a lot of misinformation out there.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what I also hope that the podcast can help clarify a few of the misconceptions and things like that that are out there without getting too much into the politics. So I don't like to get too much into the politics within the podcast just by sharing. I just want to share people's stories. I want to highlight their experience. I do interview immigration attorneys, of course, talking about their work and how policies and laws change and things like that. And most of the time, the immigration attorneys were immigrants themselves, and because of how hard it was for them, then they decide, to go to law school again. That to me is amazing because they go to law school in a language that is not their native one, so that learning English, going to law school, doing that, and then first taking the LSAT, then going to law school, then doing the bar, and then being able to practice immigration. Like that to me is just incredible. Like I wanted to be an immigration attorney for a little bit in 2019. I took the LSAT and I couldn't. So here I am doing a podcast about immigration instead.
But you're having more of an impact
Oh, thank
because
you.
they impact one person at a time and the people that are there, but you're impacting hundreds and thousands of people, and it is really important for people like you to like I said, to really dispel some of the misunderstandings and to understand the culture differences, which should uplift us,
Yeah.
not separate us.
Yeah. And what's funny now is like especially since the elections of last year, whenever I do talk about immigration, whether it is online or other people's podcasts, like for some reason people think that I'm advocating for like people to break the laws or to like not follow laws. And it's like speaking about immigration does not mean that I'm advocating for people to come in, not the proper channel. It's just providing the education of how hard it actually is. Like, what is the actual process of coming to the United States and obtaining your visa or your green card and things like that? It's like, I'm not here advocating and telling people like, oh yes, just come through the southern border. Like, no, there is a process. However, the process is very lengthy and it costs a lot of money. And unfortunately, there are people who say that they are immigration attorneys, but really they're scammers. And so they take full advantage of vulnerable people and they steal money, and that's time and money wasted from someone who is trying to obtain their residency or their green card and things like that. So that's a whole topic in itself right there.
Well, yeah, I do another show on the network called Unscripted Politics, and so I did some research. And one of the other people on the show, his name is Dr. David D. Shine, and he's a professor. and he works at a college. And so I asked him, I said, are you familiar with 100 questions? And he said, what do you mean, 100 questions? And I said, well, in order to become a citizen of this country, you have to study, and they have 100 questions that they pick 10 from.
Yep.
And they're random questions, and you don't know which ones they're going to be. So you end up having to study them all.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm willing to bet that half of your college-age students could not pass the immigration test to become a citizen in the United States, because they were born here and civics is a thing of the past, and so they don't know and stuff. But the people who become, and plus the fact that the waiting line to become a citizen can be 7, 8, 9 years beyond the expense. It just takes a long time for that to happen. And so the people who come here and the people that you talk to are really interested in the American dream. Let's talk about that. What is their version of the American dream in the interviews that you've done?
Yeah, so doing this podcast for over 3 years now and listening to over 100 stories, that is crazy to say. But one thing that comes up a lot, the word that comes up a lot when I ask them about their American dream is the opportunities that this country provides. It's the opportunities. Like I said, a lot of them are business owners. And yes, they probably could become business owners in their home country, but not saying that it's easy to become a business owner here, because, it takes a lot of hard work, but there's not as much barriers, right? And so they just say, like, they just are so thankful for the opportunities that this country provides. And still to this day, I still hear that word, opportunities, when they speak of the American dream. And I've noticed that it's also very personal. So they may have had one American dream when they first got here, but as time went on and things happened, they had another American dream. And it's like, sometimes it's just like, I just want to spend time with my family. I just want to just work and provide. And that's my American dream, to be able to have choices in their lives. That was another big one. I interviewed an author. She immigrated from, Ethiopia. She had immigrated and she came for college. So her original plan was study here and go back. And so she ended up finding a job and ended up staying. And she explained how over there, the government, when you're a senior in high school, the government gives you a test. And depending on how you do well in the test depends on your career. So if you do like good in math and science, then you would choose, or they would choose for you to like be an engineer and things like that. So she said she really just appreciated the choices that the United States provided. Like, she started studying for one thing, and then now she ended up being an author and, switching her career to something completely different. She was like, I have that choice here. There's just different opportunities and choices that we have here that other people in other countries don't.
We see, and that's one of the major reasons that I'm glad that you're doing what you're doing, because if you ask them, well, no, wait a minute. When they're a high school senior, they get this test, and based upon this test, that's the career that they have to choose. They don't get a choice, and that's really crazy. I bet you know this guy too.
Oh, that's my husband. Hi, husband.
Oh boy, do you have a little troop of followers that
I do. Oh my God, my family is like, they're so supportive. I absolutely love their support. And honestly, my husband is, obviously my number one supporter. He holds it down with the kids when I have to do speaking engagements and do podcast interviews. But, my parents have been there for me since day one with this whole project, and have been there to my events and things like that. So yeah, I love the support of my family.
Well, and by the way, we're talking with Heidy De La Cruz. I wish I could pronounce your name.
No, that's good. That's right. De La Cruz. Yeah.
Well, but you roll your R a little bit, and I've never been able to do that.
I do.
But we need to take a quick break, but I want to play this for you because this reminds me of the person that you are, and your family is so supportive of you. So listen to this and we'll be right back. It's only 34 seconds, so stay calm, everybody. Here's another point to ponder by Positive Talk Radio. In a dark room, a single candle was lit. That tiny flame chased away the shadows, filling the space with hope. Your courage Your kindness and your light may seem small at times, but it can change someone's entire world. Never underestimate the power you already carry inside. Even the smallest flame can ignite a fire that transforms lives. You are listening to Positive Talk Radio, where stories of hope come alive. And welcome back, everybody, to Positive Talk. My name is Kevin McDonald, and Brachelle's got the day off today, and Heidy De La Cruz is with us. She's a podcaster of note. She also is a insurance person, and she's got a family, and boy, does she got a family. And they have all, they've all reached out to congratulate you. So I got to ask you,
Yes.
when I started my radio career back in 2003, I had most of my family and friends say, "What the hell are you doing? You got a full-time job. You're a district sales manager. Why are you doing that?" And I said, because it's in my heart. It's my passion. And I want to create something positive that we can put out to the world and invite positive people to talk and tell their stories and who they are. And they still said, "So what are you doing that for? You're not going to make any money doing that and stuff." I'm glad you have a supportive family. It is so important.
It is. It really is. And, they listen to the episodes. My stepmom was one of the early on the episodes on the podcast. And my husband did his episode with his siblings, which I thought was really cool because his eldest brother was 14 at the time. And then his sister was 10. And then my husband was 9. And just listening to all three of them in real time, like, I don't remember that. That happened? No, that didn't happen. Like, it was just like they all came at the same time, but they all have like various different memories of, coming to the US. So it was really interesting to listen to their episode.
It is really cool. And by the way, Mr. De La Cruz has got something to say.
Oh, that's my daughter.
No, this is Jonathan, isn't it?
Well, it says, "Hi, mommy, proud of you, Leah."
Oh.
Hi, Leah.
Hi, Leah, and I'm so grateful that all of you are here, and you're here to support Heidy and the work that she's doing, which is really substantial work, and congratulations for doing all that you do.
Thank you.
It's really is important. What in your interviews that you've done, what was the most impactful story? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but there are people that have come here because of gangs in other countries that they didn't feel safe, and they were concerned that they might be killed or that their family may be taken. There's just a myriad of different circumstances, and they come here because they could. And Jonathan says, hi.
Oh my gosh. So I before we record, I do a pre-show meeting with my guests to let them know like the topics that I like to talk about and things like that. And I also send them out a questionnaire and things like that. So I do ask what they're comfortable with sharing and what they're not comfortable with sharing. So I've had a few guests that say that they did not want to share the reason why they had to come to the United States. So if I have interviewed someone who was fleeing for danger of their life, I honestly wouldn't know, because they probably just told me I don't want to share that, or I don't want to go into the details of that. But one of the most impactful stories that I've interviewed someone is because I'm a mother. So like, obviously I have that compassion when people have kids and things like that. So she's an immigration attorney now. However, her mom from Mexico, divorced her dad. And once she divorced her dad, she didn't really have a way to take care of her and the 2 kids. And so her mom decided to come to the United States, and her mom came first. And so once she settled and everything, got a job here in the United States and an apartment, she actually sent for her and her brother. So she was 5, her brother was 7. And so she sent to them through the border and paid for that. And so she was 5. So she says she doesn't really remember the whole trip of coming through the border, but she was like, she remembers that they separated her and her brother, so they would be able to cross in a less dangerous way. And so they were finally reunited in Arizona, and then her mom flew down to Arizona and picked them up and things like that. And she then had to go back to Mexico eventually when her stepdad petitioned for them to do the lawful entry, right? But there was that risk of not being able to, for the United States to decide not to let her back in. And so she shares in the episode that even she already was thinking of like a plan B and C if she wasn't going to be able to be let back into the United States. And she was like, I speak English, I speak Spanish. I was like, I was going to find a job anywhere. But luckily, she was able to come back into the United States, do the lawful entry, and eventually, get her residency and then eventually her citizenship. And then now she's an immigration attorney herself. So she literally went through like all the immigration statuses that you can here in the United States.
Well, and next time you talk to her, congratulate her for me, because she knows 2 languages. She's fluent in 2 languages. She knows American legal, which, by the way, there are Americans who have no idea how the legal system works, or that the language the lawyers use, each word means something, and it means something different than we might think of what it means, but it's legal. And it's legalese, and which is why you never go into court without a lawyer, because you have no idea what it is that they're saying. So
and that's one of the things that I saw a lot during the election cycle was immigration terms used interchangeably, not correctly. So, for example, I saw this news clip that she was at an apartment complex and she was like, oh, these apartment complexes are here for free for illegal immigrants is the term that they're using. Illegal immigrants are coming and they're going to stay here for free and things like that. And so she was like interviewing the lady. It was a Catholic church services, right? And so she was interviewing the lady and was asking about the process, and the lady from the church was explaining that these are refugees. The refugees are the ones that are coming and they've already been vetted. And so what they do is that they help them once they get here for the first 3 months by providing the rent assistance and things like that. So the apartments were available for citizens, right? For Americans, citizens, but they obviously had to pay full price and everything. But the refugees were the ones that were getting the help. And I'm like, she's saying illegal immigrants, but that's not what the process is. And I was like, this is reminding me a lot of the Bethany Christian Services that I was volunteering with for the refugee resettlement program, which is literally that. It's like these refugees are vetted through different agencies before they come to the United States. And it's usually when they come to the United States, they have already been waiting for a minimum of 10 years to be able to come. And so they've been vetted, they've gone through interviews, they have to prove that they're, seeking asylum or that there's actual threat to their lives. That's why they're refugees. And so once they get here, then they get assistance through Christian services or churches and things like that. And so it was assistance with food, it's assistance with getting a job, it's assistance with housing. And that's only for the first 3 months. Then after that, pretty much they're on their own. And so these terms were used interchangeably for fear mongering, but then also to spread misinformation. And it's like, that's not for undocumented immigrants. That's literally for refugees who are vetted, very well vetted, and that are needing assistance when they first get here to the United States.
And some of them have been waiting for a very long time.
And multiple countries too, because it's not like they just come from their country to the US. There's refugee camps literally all over the world that refugees and then are waiting to see which country will be able to accept them. And so the United States we weren't even in the top 10 of the top countries that were accepting a lot of refugees. We weren't even in the top 10. And then now they just lowered it to just 7,500 refugees for next year, but they're only going to let people from South Africa come. So that's a whole other thing.
And predominantly white farmers from South Africa.
Yeah.
And not the race should make a big deal, but when we come back, well, first of all, Christian has something to say. He's obviously not talking about me because he's saying my beautiful niece. I'm so proud of you.
Theo.
It doesn't. I gotta say this. Doesn't it make your heart warm that you have got such a devoted group of people who love you and care for you and want the very best for you?
Yeah. And all immigrants too. Hey.
And bless your souls. Because let's see. I got a little bit of time. I need to tell you this story
Okay.
because I was in the restaurant business for a long time. I went to become general manager of Garcia's at Scottsdale in Redmond, Washington. And they had a group of people that they called their Hispanic pipeline. And there was a busboy who was a principal in Mexico. And he came here because he could make more as a busboy and working 2 jobs and sending 1 paycheck home to take care of his family than he could being a principal for heaven's sakes, of an elementary school in Mexico. And so it was, and by the way, and Jonathan says, I love you. And I'm sure he's not talking about me. So he's talking about you. And but anyway, so these people, they work hard, they show up every day. And so I got transferred to another Mexican restaurant, another Garcia's in Federal Way. And I said, we need to establish an Hispanic pipeline. People that come here to work, and because they show up every day and they work really hard. And when we come back from this break, I'm going to tell you what one of them that I hired did such an amazing thing. I've never had it happen before or since, and which is why I'm so passionate about the fact that we should be. And do we need to vet people? Yes. Do we want gang members here? No. Do we want people with criminal records that hurt people? No. But we are throwing the what do they call it? They throw the baby out with the bathwater, because we are doing stuff to people who are just here to find and make a living for themselves. And I want to talk more about that, because we live in strange times, my dear, and but people like you are going to shed the light and create the understanding that we're all just people too. We just look a little bit different, and I wish I had a tan like you do. But we'll be
thanks.
You're welcome, because all I do is get red. So we will be right back after our halftime break.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
Are you looking for your daily dose of inspiration? Stay connected to all your favorite shows, music, and news with the Brushwood Media Network app. From Positive Talk Radio to Greatest Vibes Unplugged and so many more uplifting voices around the world, everything you need is right in one place. It's easy to use, too. Always available and designed to keep you inspired 24 hours a day. Go to brushwoodmedianetwork.com and download the app, and you will always have Brushwood Media available on your smartphone. Download it now and make inspiration and music and conversation part of your everyday. And welcome back to Positive Talk. My name is Kevin McDonald, and we've got a whole tribe of people here. Heidy De La Cruz is with me, but her whole family apparently is watching the show live, and I think it's just awesome. So, but to wrap up that story, so I went to Federal Way, and I hired a young man that, I believe his name was Jose. And I started him out as a dishwasher, and he worked with 2 local high school kids, and he did circles around them. And so he came to me after about a week, and he said, "Senor, this isn't working very well. Can I bring a friend?" And I said, "You want to bring a friend to work with?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Yeah, please do." And so the 2 of them, and one of the guys, when people were washing dishes in a Mexican restaurant, it's just really dirty work. And and so oftentimes I would find an apron by the dumpster in the middle of a shift, because a kid would say, I ain't doing this. And so he came to me and he said, "Senor, Why don't you just let my friend and me do the work, and you send the other kid home and give us an extra $1 an hour. He was an enterprising young man, and give us a $1 an hour extra, and he and I'll just do that job. They did the most phenomenal job. The place was cleaner than I'd ever seen it, had ever been, like ever. And then he came to me one day and said, "Senor, I'm going to Mexico to see my mom. She's not feeling well, and I want to go back to home to see her." And I said, "Well," and then he said, "And by the way, this is my friend I'm going to train to take my job while I'm gone, so that I can come back and stuff." So I ended up hiring his friend, and then when he came back in a couple of months, I hired him back, and then I made him a cook.
No.
And the whole, because of the work ethic that they have and the honesty that they have, it just was amazing to me. And so when people say, "Oh, immigrants are not as good or whatever as Americans," I tell that story because it is so heartfelt for me that is just the preconceived notions that people have is just so wrong. And a lot of these people come from places that have nothing, and they value. And tell me if you're in your interviews, if this comes out, that they value the opportunities here, and how much money that they can make, and they can send money home to their family, which goes a long way. And they work incredibly hard, don't they?
Oh yeah, definitely. The sending the money back home is really big. There's a lot of times where either the mom will come and send money back, or the dad will come first and send money back until they're able to bring the family. And that's a family unit that's split up for however many years needed to then be able to bring the family, and that's not easy to do. Making that sacrifice. But the opportunities here definitely is one of the main things that people are looking for. And as we mentioned earlier, like, yes, we want people vetted, of course. We don't want bad people to come into the country, of course, but we already have that set in place. Like, if you are seeking asylum, there's already a process in place to vet it, to make sure that it's credible and things like that. And I don't know if a lot of people know, but the percentage of asylum cases that are actually approved is really, really low. So a lot of people's cases for asylum do not get approved. And so, so it's not like it's just come and then they stay. No, there's a whole process. People get vetted. They have to provide documentations and things like that, and make sure their documentations are in order. Any little miss up in those forms and those legal forms can set a case back, or can get it not approved. That was one of the things that I learned by one of the immigration attorneys. They were like, some people really like to downplay just filling out these immigration forms, but this is a legal document that can and will be used against the client. So if there's any little mistake in those forms, your whole case can be thrown out. And you just, spent years and money waiting for your case to be heard, to be thrown out because of a mistake.
And it happens all the time.
Yes, it does. It does, unfortunately.
And unfortunately, I am hopeful. I am very hopeful that we can get back to some sort. First of all, we have to get the government open again, and that would be really a good idea. But then I'm hopeful that we can have meaningful, long-term immigration reform, so that good people are here. By the way, while you were talking about people being vetted, I was thinking to myself, we have a bunch of people that are U.S. citizens that are here that I think need to be vetted too.
No. Well, data does show that immigrants have a lower percentage of doing crimes, and it's because they they're here. I don't want to say like on borrowed land, but it's just like they're so thankful to be here that they don't want to jeopardize being here and then get deported, right? They're not looking for trouble. If anything, it's the opposite. They're really like just trying to like blend in and like not cause, attention to themselves. So for that just brings up another interview that I had. This girl, she came when she was 16 years old with her family. Her sister came first, and then her sister petitioned for her and her parents. Her eldest brother was over 18, so he decided to stay back, and they came from Ecuador. And so they came, they did the process and everything. And so her parents ended up getting their residency, but her papers never came in, and they weren't sure why. And so they ended up switching attorneys. And when they switched the attorneys, he was like looking in the system, and they were like, there's an order of deportation for you at 16 years old. And so she was just like, she just felt like she just wanted the world to like swallow her and like not cause any attention to herself. Like she didn't want to like do anything because there was an order of deportation. She said to this day they couldn't figure out like what had happened, but she had to live like all those years with that fear of like, okay, if anything happens, like I can get deported. Luckily, it was able to get fixed, but like during the time when she was 16, she was like all her high school friends were getting their driver's license. They were, you know, then going to apply to college, and she couldn't do any of these things because of that mishap with her paperwork.
And the amount of fear that somebody has to go through because every corner you go around, anytime you get stopped for whatever reason, and you have to be nervous that you're going to get into the system. And once you get into the system these days, it's impossible to get out.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there are so many stories. There are just so many stories. And I'm going to tell this story tomorrow because a gal in Salt Lake City was at the airport, and five I was going to say unclothed guys, but unmarked wearing street clothes came up and arrested her, and the police came, and they told the police we're the feds, and so the police couldn't do anything, and they took her away. She's got 4 kids, all American citizens under 18. Now, what's going to happen to those kids? What happens to the ripple effect of the fear that is generated by that? Because that could happen to anybody at any time. We don't, as a old white person, I have never faced that kind of fear about anything in my life. But for people that are just trying to make a living, and they're doing a really fine job of it, by the way. It really is a shame. So I'm hopeful that things will get better and that things will change, but I think it's got to be all of us that work together to make that change happen, and to take care, because you're right. Immigrants, statistically speaking, have got a far less crime rate than American-born people. And that's why I think we need to vet a lot of, you know, like American citizens and stuff, because it's
yeah.
There are people that live here that are citizens here that I don't want them to live here, and you know, and because they're not safe. So I got to ask you, how long have you been doing your podcast now?
3 years. It'll be 4 in April. That's crazy.
And bless your soul for doing that. And you have a full-time job, and you're a mother, and you've got, by the way, what is Sunday dinner like? You've got so many relatives and stuff. You guys must have a great time on Sunday dinner.
Oh my goodness. Well, we always eat Dominican food. I will say that. Like, there's always Dominican food. Grew up on Dominican food. I remember we would eat out on special occasions. That was nice, but it was mostly home-cooked meals, you know, the rice and the beans and the chicken, and yeah.
So you got to tell me Dominican food. I'm unfamiliar with the concept. What is Dominican food?
Just, you know, the rice. So you could either do white rice, or you can do rice with which we call guandules, which in English, what is that? I can't think of the English word right now, but it's like chickpeas. And then you got the chicken, or you got you can do red beans or black beans with the rice. We also eat a lot of plantains. So we either eat the plantains fried, or we will make, like, if it was like mashed potatoes, which we call mango. So we eat that with salami, with eggs, the fried eggs, and then the onions on top, which it's a staple that you can either eat for lunch, dinner, or breakfast. It's called a tres golpe, which literally translates to like the 3 punches. That's a very, very typical Dominican dish.
Well, it sounds delicious.
Oh, it is.
And by the way, chicken, I get yelled at a lot by my friends
Yeah.
because I for a long time, for 6 years, I was a chicken salesman. So
Oh,
I I worked for a vertically integrated chicken processor, which meant that they take it from the egg to the slaughterhouse,
yeah.
and they killed. Um, just a silly fun fact: the company I worked for, Simmons, was a smaller company, and they killed 2.5 million birds a week. Um, Tyson, the number one chicken company, kills 25 million birds a week
Oh my God.
because we are a chicken eating civilization, and so we eat a lot of chicken and stuff. But that's really cool. Now, are there any Dominican style restaurants here? Do you know?
Yeah, well, I'm in Central Florida, so there are quite a few. Yeah.
Oh, very good. And by the
Yeah.
way, one somebody.
Oh, yes, thank you. Pigeon peas. That's how you say that's the English word for guandules. Thank you. Pigeon peas.
Oh, very good. And by the way, thank you, Maida, for paying attention. and and Jonathan.
Delicious. My husband. Oh yeah.
Mm,
My
no,
husband's really big on Dominican food. So yeah. He yeah. Definitely
no.
had to learn when I got married to him.
Hi. Well, you know what's interesting about that is that Mexican food, like in a Mexican restaurant, an Mexican restaurant, the food is different than it
Oh
is
yeah. Yeah.
actually in Mexico.
Oh
Um,
yes, when I went to the border, oh my gosh. Even the food in Texas. Like I went to El Paso, Texas, and then we crossed over to Juarez, Mexico, and the food was so good. Even in Texas and in Mexico, it was really, really good. Really, really good.
and by the way, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how do they do it? If somebody wants to,
Yeah.
by the way, alert, alert, alert. She's also a podcast professional, and she also helps people start their own podcast. So if you are sitting there going, God, that guy, he does that podcast, I could do so much better than him. If you think that way, then you need to give her a call. How do they do it?
Yeah, so I like to hang out on Instagram and Threads. So the my handle is my name, Heidi De La Cruz, Heidi period De La Cruz 13, or they can go to my website, HeidiDeLaCruz.com, and all the information for how to start a podcast is there.
And one thing that I want to talk to her about is that we also have an audio video media company, and it would be fun for me to talk to you about us working together to help people
Oh,
create podcasts and with the openings and closings and with the commercials and all. Oh, speaking of commercials, I need to do this real quick, but I want to play this real quick because I do something that is called Points to Ponder, which are just little snippets of things that I want people to think about. And here is a good one. Here's another point to ponder by Positive Talk Radio. A tiny seed was buried in the dirt, covered in darkness, forgotten by the world. But within that darkness, it grew roots, then sprouted into something beautiful. The seasons of struggle you face are not endings, they're beginnings. Trust that growth is happening, even when you cannot see it. You're listening to Positive Talk Radio, where stories of hope live. And welcome back to the show, everybody. For our last segment, we've got Heidy De La Cruz here, and it is so cool to talk to you. I'm so
thank
you
you.
are. We had our 15-minute meeting, and I said to my, she's got to be on the show.
Oh, thank
She's
you.
She is so talented and stuff. Now, I have to ask you though,
Mhm.
um, because of the state of currently that is out there,
Mhm.
do you or your friends or your family, do you have fear that somebody's going to come up to you without a warrant, without a
Mhm.
reason, and stop you and question you and detain you for a period of time? Is that something that is out there in the community?
We've talked about it as a family of like having documentations and things like that. We definitely have. However, we are a family of faith, all of us, and so I we really try not to live in fear. because God, tells us over and over again in the Bible, the spirit of fear is not from him. And so we are, trusting in God and things like that. But we did talk about it. We are very practical and reasonable when we talked about it. But I definitely I'm trying not to live in fear. If anything happens, then we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I fortunately do know a lot of immigration attorneys and have interviewed a few. So if anything, I can call and we'll be set.
Well, they're gonna come running for you, and because you're putting yourself out there, and
I am.
it's important that it's important work that you're doing, and just the educational factor alone, and the differences in cultures that are there between us and other countries. It's so important, and boy, they're just excited to have you here,
They
and
are.
and that is Maida. How do you pronounce her full name?
Maida Montalvo Reynoso.
See, you did you rolled your R's again. I can't do
Yes.
that.
I know my husband, he talks to clients all day and he says his last name in English. He says De La Cruz. I'm like, you gotta say it in Spanish. Your last name is in Spanish. So I get on him all the time and he's like, leave me alone.
Well, I got to tell you, you've been doing this for 4 years. Where do you see this going? I mean, you're in 90 countries. You're all over the place, and I really think that as we go down the road, that you should be doing public speaking. And when is the book coming out, by the way?
Oh, how did you know I had a book in mind? Oh my goodness. So I definitely oh man, I do have really, really big dreams for this podcast. I would love for the pod to be able to travel to my guests, to be able to do more in-person interviews, because I do a lot of them virtually. So I would like to get to the point where I could travel to them or either fly them out down here to Central Florida and, do more studio in-person recordings. I definitely would like to write a book on the history of immigration and how each law and policy has affected people, and then also include stories of immigrants within the book as well. And I would love to eventually do a documentary about immigration. I just have really, really big dreams. And one of the other things that I would love to incorporate one day is food, because I'm a foodie and I love how big food is a part of cultures, right? So I would love to try either a typical dish from their home country and just discuss what is the food, what is the meaning and things like that. Because I love trying new foods. I'm a big foodie, so I would love to incorporate food into the podcast somehow.
Well, the interesting that you say that, because CNN has got shows that they run that are about different countries and the cuisine of those countries. And there's one now, the guy does bread. I forget his name, but that, so the sky for you is the limit.
Yes, it really is.
And congratulations on everything that you're doing. It's so important. And I really want us to kind of, because I believe strongly that we are doing our immigrant population terribly wrong. And there are a lot of people that are in fear. A lot of people are not making a living because they're scared of going out. Like it used to be that you could go to Home Depot, and there were people that would, the day workers that you could hire for the day. And now they're scared to go to the Home Depot because these unmarked cars come and they chase them down. I think, and I don't want to talk about that in such a negative way, because what you're doing is so dang positive, and it is so cool. But I'm hopeful that we can all figure it out and get together and understand that we're all one. We're all, and this comes straight out of the Bible and Matthew 25. And for those of you that haven't read the Sermon on the Mount, I highly encourage you to read the Sermon on the Mount. It's a big deal, and that's the type of Christianity that I subscribe to, and I want people to follow. That love, kindness, taking care of each other, making sure each other's well, not having hate, division, and fear control the environment. And I'm pretty sure you agree with that.
Oh yeah, I love that Jesus said, I'm doing the 365 days Bible plan where you listen to the whole Bible in a year. And um I'm through I'm right now where Jesus is missionary mission, sorry. And I love how he says that you will know who is his disciple by how we love one another. And it just really got me thinking that it's like a lot of people say that they're Christians, but their actions or their words don't really reflect that. And so it really made me think of like love is more of an action than just saying I love you and you're just saying that I'm a Christian. So I love how Jesus says that, like, you will know who is my disciple by loving one another.
And by their actions and
Mhm.
being a good Samaritan
Yeah.
and understanding that that's why we're all here, and being kind to one another is so important. So I want to thank you for being here. And before we go, I want to give you a moment to tell our audience anything that you would like them to know.
Oh, anything? Well, check out the podcast if you're curious about the immigration experience. The podcast is called The American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants. You can listen to it anywhere you listen to podcasts, so Apple or Spotify or iHeartMedia, or you can watch on YouTube. So you can see the guests, you can see me. And if you are interested in launching a podcast, I do have a course called The Voice Method where you can launch in 6 weeks or less. And just thank you, Kevin, so much for having me and giving me the space to talk about my work and my podcast. And I really, really appreciate it. And I had such a fun time.
Well, I got bad news for you. I ain't done
Oh,
with you yet.
oh okay.
I want to do more. You're delightful,
Oh.
and having your whole family support you is even more delightful. And it's something that is so needed. We need to, and I think you will agree with this. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what sex you are. I don't care who you love. We need to take care of each other and be kind to each other.
Yeah.
And we can move forward only if we do that. We can't move forward if we're divisive and have fear in our hearts and hate in our hearts. So we have to come, as the famous John Lennon once said, all you need is love. And that is so important. And so thank you so much for doing this and for doing the work that you're doing, and your information one more time so everybody can find out where you are.
Yes. Follow me on Instagram, Heidi De La Cruz 13, or check out my website, HeidiDelacruz.com.
HeidiDelacruz.com. It's amazing to me that you got that site. I mean, there's so many Heidi De La Cruzes out there.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I hope that you've had a good time. I hope your family's had a good time and by the way, you guys have my permission. Give each other high fives. High five, when you anyway. But thank you for all that you do, and I wish you a ton of success over time. But will you come back?
For sure. Anytime. I love this.
Oh, good, because I want Rochelle, my co-host, to meet you because she does speak Spanish. She had, and just real quick before we go, she's very well aware of the Hispanic experience because her boyfriend of 8 years, from 16 to 24, was Hispanic, and his mom was deported.
Wow.
Fairly recently, and so now he is working here. He's a citizen here, but he's working here to send money back to mom, and they're breaking up families and they're causing a lot of heartache. And I just hope that we can be done with it and take care of each other, because that's what we should be all about. So Heidi De La Cruz, thank you so much for being here. You are a sensational podcast person.
Thank you, Kevin, so much. I've had such a great time.
I'm so glad, and take care of your family and have a great Sunday dinner. You guys are going to have fun.
Yes, will do.
And that's the other thing that I would love people to understand. Americans our culture is broken because we throw away old people. We do not get together. We do not have a good family environment for each other that's multi-generational, unlike other cultures. And I think that is something that we need to fix as a culture, because we're throwing away such good people.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I had to say that. But thank you so much for being here. Have a great day, everybody. This is Heidy De La Cruz. Go to her website or her podcast again, which is
The American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants.
The American Dream in the Eyes of the Immigrants. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for being part of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where stories inspire and voices remind us of what truly matters. May today's conversation give you hope, courage, and a reason to keep moving forward. And just remember, till next time, be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got.